Pass me to the message. What you got? No, sir. No, sir. Oh. Please don't lean back. All right, we're going to start the meeting and we'll do our pledge first. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. David?
Heavenly Father, we come to you today asking you to watch over this county and watch over the decisions that are made here by the commissioners, and that they'll be able to make the decisions that are good for the county and follow your will. And we thank you for the nice weather we're having right now and looking forward to the spring. In Jesus' name, amen.
Well, good morning. I've reviewed the minutes to make a motion that we pass them.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
We just have one abatement this time.
Change order 2020-175 for $205.16. Make a motion to approve this.
What was it for?
Abatement.
Oh, an abatement? Oh, a second, yeah.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
And bills.
Make a motion to approve the bills and $299,078.27.
Go ahead.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Is that all you got for now, David?
That is, I did get an email from Tisha just a little bit ago. She's not gonna be able to make it over today.
Okay. She sent any numbers?
She sent some on vaccinations. 250 vaccinations last week, 190 at the pod, and the remainder were at the schools. And she did not have number of COVID cases yet, said they'll be working on that later this week, so.
Yeah. River City?
Bill Matlock, River City, 5-week look ahead schedule update. In relation to the last week or last meeting we had, we'd lost some time. We did work Saturday. We did continue to lose some time last week due to the frost in the ground, but we were able to work foundations and stuff like that. But some of the utilities we lost the ground on. For the next 30 days, you can see we'll be working on site water, storm, sewer, building pad. The LVC layer, we're starting this week. They're over at the quarry now, pugging the rocks. We'll be putting that down. Plumber's due in here this week. We'll get him started with temporary services and under slab rough ends. The electrical under slab will continue on. Basically, all the under slab work and slab related and foundation work will be the next 30 days. I do have one question. Probably within the next 30 days, we'll finish the utility relocate power. Now that the car wash is out of service, do you guys wish the power to be restored to that? Or do you want me to just leave that off,
No,
disconnected?
I don't see any reason why it has to be.
I don't think so either. Oh,
I'll see.
Okay.
I think
Otherwise, when you go to tear it down, you just have to get a service
Right.
call and they have to come out and disconnect it. So, but I didn't know if you needed power in the meantime.
I think we're good, Bill.
Okay. Then we will go that route.
I've got one question too. Some of these property owners here that said the alley's been blocked on with the.
The alley is a heavy used area. And some of the work does require work in the alley. We try and work with them. We have told, the lady next door, yeah, they turn around, they get it. It's hard to keep people off their property. And I tell them, but you get individual workers that change every day and things happen. We will restore their driveways and things like that, when the project's near the finish. We don't have any problem with that at all. So I've been trying to tell them that, and if they're blocking it, I try and get them moved, but those things are gonna happen.
There's times they're wanting back there and it's blocked.
Yeah, well,
And it's just,
if just direct them to my trailer if they have a need, and I'll get it handled immediately.
Okay, thank
But
you.
every day, somebody new's out there, and you know what I mean, and they're gonna block it, and we just have to get on them.
Yep.
So,
Maybe-
but yeah, just send them to my office. We'll take care of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have, hey, Bill, do you have fence going up around all that here pretty quick, like? How you doing?
We're, that's a good question. We do have fence budgeted. The work, that we've been doing it's gonna make it extremely difficult. Fence to be down most of the time in most places. Even working with the mason, your building is so close to the property line, it's gonna be difficult to maintain the fence up all the time. So, we can do one of two things. We can fence portions of it. We can fence the entire thing. It's just gonna have a lot of openings at a lot of times, or we can even look at, the money budgeted for the fence. If we don't fence it, or even just do part of it, we can reimburse that back to you guys.
Could we put a yellow ribbon up or anything just to verify?
I mean, we are temporarily
If you
fencing
can.
ditches and things like that, yes.
I mean,
But-
I understand how big it would be a pain. I mean, it'd be a huge pain. And
especially for the mason around the building. But now the laydown area is much smaller. We can fence that. I've held off just because of we'd have it destroyed basically down everywhere.
you think that maybe do part of it for like when you guys start getting a lot of material and stuff on site, you can just go fence around it, or
We can do that. That's what most of the material storage will be on the west end of the project. And we can definitely do that without having to take it down all the time, you know. But up around the buildings, down the alley, this space, and around the corner street, we are going to reopen that street shortly. But the building is right up to the property line, you know, basically. So we got to get scaffold in there, and he's got to be able to service it as well. So
yeah.
you guys think about it, and we're to the point where we feel comfortable that we could probably even get by without fence. There's a certain amount of risk with that, but, and maybe the happy medium is what you say, just fence the storage area. And once the building's up, we can temporarily lock the building, keep people out, you know, once it's enclosed. We have temporary closures going on the windows and things like that, the doors and stuff, so.
Maybe, when time comes, we'll talk about it a little more. So.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Sheriff?
Morning, Commissioners. Kevin Friend, Linn County Sheriff. Today we have 28 prisoners in. I know this weekend we hit 30 a few times. 18 of those are in-house. We were running about 20 in-house. We've had some bond, some arrests from over the weekend. Have 10 farmed out, 9 in Anderson County. We lost a bed there. We had a guy bond and they didn't re-rent the bed to us. So we've got 9 in Anderson and 1 in Bourbon. This past week we had 117 911 calls. But the call number that was up a lot was our calls for services. I think we had about 90 more calls for services this week at 330 versus last week. I think we had around 240 or 245, somewhere in there. So those are kind of our numbers. We did have an incident on Saturday that involved a house being moved in Linn County and lack of permits. They had reached out to Linn County for some permits, and those permits were not yet granted, and they went ahead on Saturday and moved the house anyway. It was a very large structure, about a 32 foot wide house, I believe, coming down about a 26 foot road bed. So we had a lot of our county road signs were pulled to the side, knocked over, disassembled, and things like that. So we did engage Public Works on Saturday, and we had Kevin Amer come out and restore some of the signs that were pertinent that we must have up. As well, the house was placed, the trailer and truck and house were placed out of service, and they were left at Nickel Road and 1150, there by the substation. If you guys are familiar with that area, I'm sure you are. So that road has been blocked off until we can get permits and stuff for the house to go ahead and go down the roadway. There was a second structure being moved behind it. The first structure was being moved by Stinnett Trucking or Stinnett Timbers out of Kincaid. And the second structure was being moved by Johnny Walker out of Fort Scott. And it was a shed, barn, garage, some outside building like that. It was placed out of service, and it's currently sitting at the fairgrounds. So I think the reason I mention it to you, and I'm sure Mr. Messer will probably mention it as well, is I think moving forward on some of these projects like this, if it's going to cause issues with safety involving our roadway system, we'd kind of like to be read in on that. And I think there should be possibly the county would want to look at maybe even having the sheriff's office do some assistance on some of those things if they're going to be, taking up the entire roadway as this, if we're going to permit that activity. Of course, there needs to be a charge for that. It can be put in on the permit and stuff like that. We're not going to go out and do it for free. They can hire a company, but these guys had a very insufficient follow car company and stuff like that. It was not safe. If they would have met a fire truck or an ambulance in the roadways that they were on, it would have been a problem. So I think that's something the county needs to look at. I talked to Mr. Messer this morning, and he told me, he said that they'd learned a lot from this experience and what was going on with it. So I think it's something we probably ought to engage in conversation about in the very near future in case we'd have more of these. But just a concern of mine, and we'll be more than happy to help with it and be involved in it. We just need to know about it. So
As far as the signs being damaged or took down or whatever, what are we doing about that?
I believe that Mr. Amer with Public Works, with our sign division, has already taken care of the most of those. One thing that we ran into that we noticed even after the situation was a lot of our curve signs, which are a chevron to show a curve ahead, a lot of those signs have been just pulled over because generally those signs are kind of more in the ditch and not roadside, but down in the ditch or even up high on the backside of the ditch. And a lot of those signs have been pulled over. So I think it's something that Kevin's going to have to go out and probably assess those signs and see, because they're not standing straight up and down anymore. And over time, what we know will happen is they'll fall over. So I think there will be some more assessment that'll have to be made today. But I think he has fixed, I know we had, I believe one of my deputies told me Saturday he was trying to run the track that they had taken, and he had 8 signs that had been disassembled or damaged to the point they'd have to be replaced. And he's working with Kevin Amer, and they've got those all on a list now to take care of those. So,
Did they pull them and just leave them lay on the ground? Or?
yeah, they disassembled and left them lay. As the house went over them, it just tore the sign apart. And then at the bridges, which we had multiple bridges that they crossed, they were shoring their trailer up with 4x4 or 2x4 material to lift the trailer up so they could clear the bridge structure and things like that. We probably really should be with them while that's happening, if we're going to permit that activity. And I don't even know if it's something we want to permit in the future.
So are we looking at that? Are we going to let them know what the cost of the sign?
Yes, I instructed my department, to keep a log of even our hours that we spent on this. Highway Patrol spent hours. We called them, had them come and because once we seen what was going on, one of the haulers was not even a company. They were hauling as a company. So without permits, without proper equipment and things like that, it was just dangerous. So moving forward, I think we'll probably see if we can make some changes in that process. Our permit, in comparison to KDOT permits, our permits are dirt cheap. A KDOT permit coming down the highway with a load that's going to be causing something like this is hundreds of dollars per mile, where we're dirt cheap. I don't even know what our permit cost is, but I want to say it's a $300 or $400 permit fee and then so many dollars a mile, but it's not much. But I think we got to consider adding some costs in there because quite honestly, I think a lot of these projects probably need a patrol car to lead it, to block roads down the way and stuff like that. So it was just a dangerous situation. I don't feel like our people did anything wrong. I feel like our people, quite frankly, in the email that was received from Stinnett Timbers, when they gave us their path, it was 1900 to K7, so they were going to be at 1.5 miles on 1900. Well, we caught them at 1150 in Nickel, so their path wasn't followed, even if they would have had their permit. So I think we got to go out and lay eyes on the structure that's going to be moved, know the exact route that it's going to be moved, and it's going to take some planning to do those things. And like I said, we're more than happy to work with folks. We don't want to strangle anybody when they're trying to move a structure down the roadway. We know there's a permit process for it, but we also just have to be safe about it. And I feel like this situation breached that. I do know that we had an ambulance that was dispatched to a situation and likely could have come through that area. That didn't occur. It was rerouted and went north. So that was good. But on a day like that, we had, at that very time, we had probably 10 or 12 fire units out working grass fires on Saturday. So it was kind of a gamble. At what point do you have to send somebody through there and can't get them through? Stinnett was real good. They were able to get the house pulled off onto Nickel, which that chunk of Nickel's about half, 3/4 of a mile long. We shut Nickel off at 1095 and we shut it off at 1150 because we have a house sitting on it. So
How long do you think that'll be closed down?
we don't know that answer yet. We're hoping that we can get permits in place and get this thing moved sooner than later. A lot of it wasn't the reason for the shutdown or the out of service for the vehicle wasn't necessarily for lack of permits. It was for various safety violations. They had tire issues. They had all types of issues. The structure wasn't bolted, chained, or even secured to the trailer. It was just a weeble wobble on the trailer. So as they would get to a bridge structure, they could lift the structure to get over a bridge and, stuff like that. So
I do, but I didn't do this one.
it was not a safe situation at all. So, but we'll be engaged with Public Works and talking about what we can do moving forward. And if we can help that process, we want to, because this just wasn't good. So that's pretty much all I have. I appreciate you guys hearing me out and appreciate Jackie working with me. Over the weekend, I talked to Joyce, I talked to Andy. Amer came out and worked for multiple hours, taking care of signage issues. So Public Works did the county a solid this weekend and took part of a pretty day and came to work. So we appreciate that.
They filed for a moving permit before, or?
They had talked about a moving permit for the last 2 to 3 months, is my understanding. But there never was a permit from Linn County that was put in place. It's my belief that they had an oversize or an over-width permit to go down the highway, but they didn't have all the moved permits yet in place. So, thank you, gentlemen.
Thanks, Kevin.
Go ahead, Amor.
Good morning. I'm Galen Anderson, Operations Manager with American Medical Response. We ended out the month of February with 57 transports, and I'll have the detailed report for you next week. We had for the last 3 weeks, we've had one full-time EMT deployed down to Texas with the FEMA response for assisting with vaccinations with the state down there. Backfilled that EMT with other EMTs, so didn't cause a disruption in service. We like to support our EMTs and medics when we're able to, going out on deployments. That was a good experience for them. We completed the CAD tracking with the comm center, which I think you've already been updated about that. So now the Linn County Comm Center can see when they look at their screen that shows the law enforcement units, fire units, also shows the ambulance unit. So that's a big improvement with just efficiency and operations and safety as well. And to update you on the AMR Comm Center, the phone issue was resolved, which I think I updated you recently about that as well. But my daily supervisors are monitoring the EMD process to make sure it's happening consistently when it's possible. And it seems to be going smooth. So we're happy to have that back in place. And I think that's all I had. Any questions for me?
None from me.
I don't have anything.
All right. Have a good week.
All right. Bobby, do you have something? Oh. Mr. Harding, you got something?
I really don't, just wanted to make sure I'm available if you have any questions or anything. And
Did you have any luck on that one thing I was talking to you about?
refresh my memory, what one thing you're talking about?
Okay. We talked about it offline before. You were looking,
You'll have to remind me
I'll
of that
remind
one,
you
I
if
guess.
you're around for a break, if we get ready to go into executive session or something.
Sure.
If you're around.
Sure, I'll be around. Yeah, and I just want to observe and make sure know what's going on.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so I passed out in case everybody saw that Senate Bill 245 was established, and is providing the financing of electrical corporations through insurance sanctions bonds. That went to it's in committee. I don't know if it came out of committee already, but it was importance to one of our representatives up there, our state senator, that this may be a mark to, she thought at first it was maybe a shot at letting the power plants putting on notice that they could close early if they decided to. So I sent a message up to our lobbyist up at the Kansas County Commissioners. He responded back that it appears that the bill allows transaction bonds to aid the shutdown of plants as they approach useful life. The bill does not address whether plants would be shut down or not, or which ones would be shut down or kept open. So I just want everyone to be aware of that, and it's probably a time that we need to consider appointing a committee. I think the economic development section, I don't know about you all, would be a good group of people to go out and actually get eyes on all these bills and everything that's going on in the county, and then what process we would name. And you're over there in that, you're part of that economic development. So I didn't know what you thought and what you thought, Danny, but we don't want this to sneak up on us.
Right.
And thank goodness Karen Tyson, Senator Tyson, brought this up. And this is just one step. It doesn't address that they're closing, not closing, but it does address that there's insurance bonds and stuff like that. So there's talk about it. And you had talked about it before too.
Right.
So it's important that we have a committee formed. I believe, don't you, Gary, legally, that just to put us on notice, and if anything comes up.
No such thing being too prepared.
Yeah.
So you're saying just get Jessica and the
Yeah.
board to.
Start reviewing this and then seeing what we could accomplish by this. Maybe getting some Evergy to come out and talk to us, or that group of people, talk to that group of people about what their plans are. I'm sure they're not going to let the cat out of the bag, but some ideas. And then in the event that when it does, or if it does, what's our plans for it? Are the EPA going to drain the lake if that was the case? Or are they going to leave it? Who's going to get it? Is it going to be sold? Is Rod Rock going to come down and build $500,000 homes on it and So all those questions, there's a lot of questions that could be out there, and it could be a long, long time away, but when you start seeing these things coming up in the Senate, up at the House at Topeka, it probably is time to start looking at it pretty seriously. So just wanted to put everybody in a scared notice but a caution notice that it's important. We lose the power plant. It's a lot of tax base there. It's a lot of money. And
Almost 70% of our
yeah,
tax base.
yeah. Jim's gonna have to start paying the taxes for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, Jackie, come on up.
Jackie Messer, Public Works Administrator. A question came up a few weeks ago from David on the request by the Gordon Parks Museum about putting a
Sign.
sign up here. Here's a draft of it to show you what they're looking at. And then
That's a busy sign.
And then
You go on the road?
no, it'd be right there.
Oh,
across on the-
I got you.
This is a picture of another one of them to give you the idea of the size and what it would look like. This is a mock-up of it. So they're seeking permission to put it, here's another picture of actually that's what one looks like. Here's another design with a larger base. I didn't see anything wrong with it. I do think that we should, again, look closely at our sign, get it fixed before we do that. But
Wooden sign?
yeah,
What is that?
best I can figure out, it was put up by Historical Society here in the county years and years and years ago, and they're all over the place, some sort of initiative, but I don't know. I was going to talk to Jessica to work with them to find out if they're going to update some of these. We have one out there near
Campbell Hill?
the one that says the old military road. That was one that was probably put up at the
There's one
same
on
time.
Campbell Hill that says birth home of Enos Mills. Is that part of that deal? It looks just like that sign.
Yeah.
I think
And they
it's
were-
scattered all over the county in different places.
And I don't know, to get people to build them like that, I know with the Park Service, we quit doing that years ago because they were too hard to maintain and to put up. Now it's more something like that. It's a panel. But they were requesting permission to do it. Basically, they were just looking for a learning tree, film, scene, location, tourism, sign permission for. So the question is, do we want to let them do it? That's all they're looking for. They got a grant for it.
I don't have an issue with it as long as it's, if it ever starts fading or something, they're going to maintain it. I mean,
Okay.
David, you see any issue with that? I mean,
As far as the Historical Society, if they're the ones that put that there, do we give the Historical Society any money yearly or?
yes.
Yes, that's the reason I think we can reach out through Jessica contacting that group
get them?
and saying what they need to do is put in for a grant for replacement of all these signs. To inventory them and ask for a replacement. I don't think it should be on us to do that, but if we can get Jessica to work with them and try to walk them through the permit process, there's money out there to replace these.
These signs predate almost anybody that's currently.
Alive?
Yeah, I think maybe these may date back as far as the Centennial, Candy Centennial in 1960.
They've been there over 40 years,
Yeah.
I'll assure you.
And now they're historic signs. So,
So what's saying about me now, or what?
well, the only thing I would request then is if you have no problem with that, give me permission to sign the paperwork to go ahead and start this.
Yeah, I don't
You
have
wanna
a
do
problem
it?
with
I
it.
don't have an issue with it. Be a motion or anything on it.
Probably be good to have motion record.
I'll make a motion that we allow Jackie to move forward with this, what is it called? The Gordon Park, or,
Gordon Park, learning tree sign.
there you go.
I'll second it. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Okay, I had a bunch of little stuff here and there. David Southwick went ahead and put out the bids for the herbicide that we used this year,
Right.
and he came back with a report. And was seeking approval to go ahead and select the vendor on the bottom.
Is that the one that usually gets it?
No. Actually, somebody else snuck in there last year, but this is the one he says is the most, they've had it in the past since I've been here, but last year it was somebody new. In fact, I think it was the middle one of the three there last year.
Now, do they not go to the local businesses or what? I mean, I know Beechners is, but like Mount City Ag, they're not on here.
This is for us to buy.
To you to buy.
Oh, he
just
said he sent it out to 6, but only 3.
three, okay,
Only 3 responded,
I see.
and I actually have that.
And Beecher normally does respond. I don't know
Yes.
about Mount City.
And Van Dees always responds, and the one who got it last year. He actually sent it out, and they
Oh, wow. Quite a
came
bit.
back with their notes on the bids.
Well, that's quite a difference.
The actual amount, I don't know. I would guess, last year we used about 13,000, but we were not as aggressive with spraying. I would anticipate this year, we're looking about $25,000 in chemicals.
What'd you say, 25,000?
Total, yes. Some of that last year was confused because we tried to use a contractor who was a disappointing experiment. They did not produce what they had promised. So I think our chemical bids are going to double this year because we will be doing what they did by contract.
How are we getting this to the cost shares out?
This is for us.
This is for our
Oh,
chemicals.
okay. I'm sorry.
Ours. Yeah, just what we use.
All right. I got you.
Now, why do you think it's gonna be double? We got twice the equipment is what you're saying?
No, we tried to do it by contract last year, so that amount's going to be in there. And we were short people all last year, so we didn't spray as much as what we should have.
Okay.
So to do it right, it's going to cost us twice what we only spent 13,000 last year on chemicals. I look for it to be double because we're going to be more aggressive. We have 2 trucks. And we're not going to use a contractor, so I think we'll use twice as much chemical.
When we sprayed the contract, that price included.
Was in the.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. I got you.
It would be more like what normally we would spend is what it would be.
So you need a motion for this, right?
Yes, to approve
Van Dees.
as the chemical supplier this year.
I'll make a motion that we hire the vendor for the Linn County Noxious Weeds Abatement, Van Dees. That's the company's name.
Yes.
Okay. And it doesn't give a dollar figure.
Because it's broke down per chemical.
I know. I don't know if David needs that or not.
What did we spend on contractors last year as far as hiring a contractor?
We
About
bought,
12,000, but I canceled the contract before. It was looking like we would spend about 50, but they were doing such a horrible job, we kicked them to the curb and sent them down the
What
road.
we spent on it.
yeah, they just didn't
Okay.
perform.
Well, they were, yeah, and it was just easier to let them go. And every time I turned around, well, somebody broke their leg and we don't have a driver, we don't have this. And so we ended up,
With a lot of weeds.
well, about that time we had transition within the department. I think we're pretty stable this year.
Okay.
So you got your motion?
Yeah.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Okay, with a little bit more along the lines of the noxious weeds, we do have one employee, Carl Weberg, who's the second sprayer. David's the primary. Carl, but he's going to be out with some surgery. So I just hired a operator in the North District to be a truck driver, but he doesn't have a CDL yet. I'm going to move him down to fill in
Temporarily?
to fill in spraying until we figure out the long term.
Yeah, I mean, let's not commit to being temporary. It's tentative, but it could end up being permanent.
Yeah, if he does extremely well, then we have a decision to make. But right now, we're looking at we got to fill in the gap. And I also, last week we put out, I think it hit the paper last week, maybe this week, to advertise for the seasonal positions. We also included a noxious weed person in case everything else
What was our seasonal pay
for.
for seasonal mowers?
I think it starts about 10:05 or 10:40.
Okay.
And we haven't been getting applications back, but we opened.
We have?
Pardon?
We have?
We have some applications
good.
so far, and it's only been about a week. We put out for cabin cleaner. Not sure that we're going to fill these, but I wanted the option to go ahead and put them out. The cabin cleaner and the clerk, part-time clerk, which we normally use. We haven't been filling them because we can't find anybody.
And you said that's a 17-year age on the.
Yes, yes.
Have you went to the high school in Pleasant anyway, when I was a senior, we had, like work release where at noon you got off and you could go work from noon until like whatever time? I mean, have you talked to any of?
I never even considered that. I didn't know that that was an option. I know when I was going to school, we did that for VOTEX. We would let people do that, but I did not know if it was an option.
Official distributed education program, that kind of.
Yeah. Well, it goes through like, I don't know, one of the like home ec classes or something, but yeah, it's work release. And if you're a senior, and you have a job, you can get off at noon every day after lunch, you sign out and you go work for the rest of the day.
I'll talk to them. We'll look at that. It's a possibility because we never fill all the mower positions.
Well, I think that just has to do with the kids that have enough credits that they let them out there every day to finish.
We just seem to not get enough applicants to fill that. I don't know if the pay is too low or if it's just the economics of the area, but we struggle to fill the positions. We could use 2 or 6 total if we had them, but we never get them. We usually end up with 1 or 2. So we're looking at that, and hopefully we get some good applicants and choices. I think I lost my notes, but we also have the clerk position out right for here, and we have I think that's all we have out right now. Mechanic. We also have a mechanic because one of them resigned and moved on. So anyway, that's what we're working on there. We also have the yearly report for the noxious weed. And this one needs you guys' signature. Has how much we spent. This is a state report. How much we spent, how many acres we treated. Every year I bring that, you guys approve it, it goes to the state. I said, next year's is gonna look a lot different because we're running full stack this year. Barring any unforeseen. But I needed approval and get you guys to sign that so we can go ahead and turn it on to the state. It's every year we
Does it include their pay?
total
Salary?
total in there, yes. How much we paid, how much our budget was, how much we spent of our budget, it's all listed in there. And I can get copies of that.
No, well,
You get it.
we'll get it to you here in a second.
It looks like there's a lot of blank spaces and like it doesn't cover a lot, but the reason for that is we use cost share program. So there's a lot of that's not filled in because it's covered by the cost share. Other counties who don't, that sell directly to the farmer instead of through a cost share, there's a lot more stuff filled out on.
So the category where Acre Street private is cost shares?
Yes.
Okay. Did he do this? Southwick do this?
Yes. We now are using that
I
STAR
could tell.
program.
Yeah, it's not like crayons.
Pardon?
It was like one of your reports that somebody did a couple years ago. It was like in crayon, you know. Looks good.
Well, we purchased that STAR program 2 years ago, and it's being fully used as designed now.
Good.
Because he understood it more completely. And so that is in there. So he just fills in the numbers and it prints it out instead of trying to figure it out.
What else you got while we're looking at these?
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff. I guess the sheriff filled you in
Yeah.
on
The house.
the house. We are taking some lessons from that, and we're gonna write up some procedures, so next time we're all.
Bobby need to get involved in that as far as writing procedures up for that, or would that be his, down his?
Andy's gonna
Andy's
pull
gonna-
up with a draft, and we'll go from there, and we'll get the sheriff's department. I think they kind of took advantage of a few things that Andy was off and I was off, and they tried to do it on the weekend, but we took a little bit of them at their word. So I think part of the procedures is, no, you're gonna show us a permit. You're gonna have to put a bond out. We're gonna go look at the house and make sure the measurements match what they're saying. So we learned a few lessons. I don't think it might have discouraged them on this one from trying to do what they did, but. Here's something else that Andy wrote up, and I was just gonna give you a copy of it. We always have the question on the airport of what to do. Because the pilots have their idea, we have our ideas. So Andy wrote up, consulted with a couple of, consulted with some experts. Because the snow removal, we're always questioned. What do you do? What do you do? When do we plow? When do we not plow? So he talked to some of the pilots, and he talked to the people from the state, and we came up with this. I mean,
So
some of them said,
this is a draft so far? Does it got to go anywhere besides us?
no, it's just information. But like we always get caught in a bind. Well, this pilot doesn't want you out there. This one does. So this is pretty much taken from other counties, other areas of what do you do, so we know.
Want to look at?
You want me to?
I think you should before we crash a plane.
And that way, I mean, one time a couple of years ago, they, I'll admit our mistakes. They went out there and graded it and
Right.
slapped some salt down on it. And first pilot to land it said, "What the heck are you people thinking? Get that salt off of there." So that was a lesson learned. So this is kind of, when I get a call of, well, should we grade the runway? I don't know. What's the pilot saying? Some of them say we'd rather have not graded. So this gives us parameters. So how many inches, what triggers what. So we just wrote a policy to try to keep ourselves out of trouble.
Is the road crew over at Pleasant the one's going to go out and blade
Yeah.
it if it's
They're
necessary?
going to do it, and they're going to do the health department.
Okay.
And clean up in the areas.
I'm going to read it over and I'll see.
Yeah, and we usually leave a truck over there that runs out of there. In fact, the asphalt crew over there is crack sealing this week. They're going to start using that crack seal machine.
Oh, yeah.
And so they're going to start on some small areas first to get the hang of the machine, make sure they
What
got
about
it.
your other machine? Did they get it fixed? The one with the paddles and,
No, they're waiting on the wheel, the
Parts
gears.
Ordered.
Yeah, they're waiting on the gears to be,
So did we have to wait on somebody to manufacture them, or did we find a company that did it? I mean, they already had them already made.
no, nobody has.
Okay.
That company, the machine's about 40 years old.
Right.
Been
Right.
bought, or the company, so they don't have them.
One of the guys that looked at it thought, yeah, it could be done, no problem. And you used a local guy here, so.
Yeah, and they talked to him, but
Mm-hmm.
if I understand it, he said the material alone that he would have to pay was more than what our bid was, so we
Yeah.
went with the other bid.
Yeah.
He said, I can't even buy the materials for that, so.
Right. And you're
And they
replacing
did
all the.
call him back and
all the-
talk to him.
Yeah, I know. And he was happy about that. All the paddles got replaced too.
Yeah, we were able to get those through a company,
That's good.
but the gears are about this big. There's two of them,
Yeah.
and they're gonna have to be manufactured.
Okay.
They also incorporated some safety features in there, and replaced some stuff, because that machine, if you're not paying attention, you can lay that puppy over in a heartbeat. And from what I understand, it's been laid over 2 or 3 times. So we're trying to correct procedures so that doesn't happen. I mean, when I first got here, it had been laid over about the week previous to me showing up.
Right. So we get the new bus all situated like it's supposed to be?
Yes.
Has it been in service at all?
I've used it periodically. We're still using the other 2 as the primary vehicles, so that, because that mileage is reimbursable. We were down to 1 van last week, so that's when it's going to be handy, but we had to take it back because the lift wasn't working, so we had to run it back up there, and they fixed the lift, and we brought it back, and I think it's in the sheriff's barn right now, being stored over there. But yeah, and there was some training even last week for how to operate the lift in case his people have to do it. So.
Yeah.
Oh,
Any major equipment down? I keep buttoning. I'm sorry. I thought you was about.
no, well, we have a lift station at the 4-H is marginal. We had a check valve in there that keeps it from flowing back from the lagoon. And what our theory is the lagoon froze. So because of that hard freeze, and the pump tried to pump the sewage up there and blew the check valve apart, and we were having a extremely difficult time finding that part. In fact, we don't want to replumb down inside that lift station unless we have to. So we do have some people working on that. We glued the old one back together. It was PVC, so it's working fine for now. I'm going to be out one day this week in Hutchinson for wastewater training. I've got to get 2 classes before the end of April to maintain my license. I did contact Lake Region coordinator, and I asked her to step in and start working with the Pleasant School and us to provide the trailer and get the recycle program going. So we're working on that this week. I did have a conversation last week with some representatives of our on-call engineer Peppercorn. They brought a couple people down, and I gave them a lot of documentation of what our inspections have come up with. I'm going to ask them to come up with a program or some bids that we can bid out some of the worst guardrails that we have. They told me something really interesting, and this I think we can translate out to the farmers in the field. Back in the 30s, they built those concrete ones. Everybody's seen them. They're about 4 feet tall, big, heavy concrete ones. Most of the farmers hate them with a passion because when the equipment's gotten so big, they can't get by them. And what I was looking at was to knock those down and replace them with a shorter guardrail. But they told me that if I do some criteria, if I check some boxes before we do it, we can go ahead and knock those off and not replace them. But I want a letter from them saying that first.
Not replace them,
Not replace them.
but put a different guardrail up, right?
No. If it's less than 7 feet, now the state says knock them off, put a carcinite on each side, and you're done.
If it's less than 7, but if it's
If it's
over
less-
7, then we have to replace.
We'll have to, then we'll go to the guardrail style that's shorter.
Isn't
But
that
if
what,
there are areas out in the county, pardon?
isn't that what that house got stuck on? Was those,
I didn't come in
Yeah,
for it, I don't know.
That's something like it.
What we're finding with these, and Jack, in fact, I've called them up crash scenes, to look at it, we're finding that these are, well, we had a crash out there on Scott Road, that there was very dramatic damage and injury because of it. And about anything would be safer than a big hunk of concrete sitting beside the road.
So that's what the state has determined, that these are almost as big a hazard as not having one. So they're saying if it's less than 7 feet from the road surface to the bottom of the ditch or whatever we're protecting, we can remove them and just use carcinites instead.
So I know now that that prevents a lot of equipment going across it. Those,
Yes.
obviously almost all,
You're saying 7 feet from the top of the deck.
to the,
bottom of
to the water.
Water or to
the
the,
road surface?
Surface, road surface to the bottom.
to the bottom of the creek or whatever's
Yeah,
there?
so this is the road surface.
How many do you think we have throughout the county?
Oh, I don't. 7 feet, we can take.
So,
We don't know yet. We do have an extensive list now in Public because we've been going out and investigating them. But what I think what I'd like to do is basically open it up to contact with the people out here. If you have one and it's giving you grief trying to get your equipment through, call us. We'll come out, evaluate it. If we can knock it out and go with carcinite, we will. We'll put it on the schedule a rainy day that we can't do anything else. We could go out there and cut them and install the carcinites and help out the people who are trying to get this huge equipment through. So
that's my point. Next point, those bridges are generally fairly small bridges.
yes,
So we knock the sides off. What's the weight tonnage going over it? You see what I'm saying? All of a sudden we've got, crazy amounts of weight going over the top of it. So we
I
need
guess
to
that
make,
would be part of the evaluation of each different site.
And maybe why they are limiting your ability to do that to the low ones. I mean, if you're taking a lot of weight over something that's 7 foot off the ground, it's different than taking a lot of weight over something that's 20 feet off the ground.
right.
Is that just a box culvert, right?
Yeah, it's a box culvert. These are usually 4 feet tall.
Yeah.
And they're too tall for you.
They're not even classified as a bridge, are they?
No, they're not a bridge. The bridge is classification comes underneath. If the culvert, you got a barrel here. If it's not 20 feet, it's culvert. If you got two of them side by side, if it's 20 feet, it's a bridge, even though they're culverts. So the ones we're talking about, there's something out there that's this far. So it's definitely less than 7 feet, but from the road surface of the bridge, or the road to the bottom of the ditch, if it's less than 7, we can take it off.
Okay.
So we're gonna try to work with people on that. Some people have, I know there's people all over this county that are going way around because those things are there.
Right.
So we'll just try to work with them and see what we can do to improve everything. Roads update, we're still trying to get everything, we're still grading and putting the gravel down. We're a little easier to work with now that it's not so hard for a while because of the recent rains. I do need to talk to you guys later right now about the bridge contracts. I'm not quite sure when you want to talk about that. We were supposed to have fixed that contractor button last week. I haven't checked to find out if we've got it
I
fixed.
don't know if it was fixed or not.
We had an electrician that was going to look at it.
But we're running all the graders. And
Yep. Trying to run everything we got. Pardon?
Any open spots for a grader? Is there any open spots? Are we needing anybody?
I don't think we have any equipment operator positions. We have a truck driver position.
Okay.
Or a mechanic.
Mechanic.
And we do have a truck driver that doesn't have his CDL yet. He's working on his CDL, but we have diverted to another site. But the only position out
You
there,
got somebody?
I had a guy that's called me a few times. I think he's put an application in, and he just called me about it, and I told him I'd ask if we had an equipment operator. I think that's what he was looking for, so.
so
You want to look at part-time in case somebody's out one day?
we could look at that, but
Take him as a part-time or look at him as a part-time maybe?
yeah, I know we've looked at that several times,
I know.
but part-time is 1,000.
What about these old, no, not so, what about these retired guys that's been in a road grader before? And they've reached out to me many a times, and so my response back then is, why don't you get back in a road grader then? Would that be possible to utilize them as a sub for a few days a week if they need it?
The problem with bringing the retirees back, it gets into capers. It costs us much more.
Yeah, it does.
And then because we have to pay the full benefits, everything, instead of being split between the employee, correct me if I'm wrong.
It's a much higher percentage if we have to pay indicators if we hire somebody.
Gotcha.
And if we go with a part-time person, if it's under, I mean, that's another whole category that we've not gone down with equipment or truck drivers. It's a different category. So we haven't gone down that road because of that. They don't get benefits, they don't get insurance, they don't get this and that and the other. And so even at part-time, we do not pay benefits. We would have to make policy adjustments to be able to make it worthwhile to a lot of these people to do it part-time. One, you got the retirees we would have to pay a huge penalty. And then the ones that aren't retirees, they don't get any benefits, and the pay is, we've never set a pay grade for that.
Well, consider the ones that have not retired, or maybe they've retired, but not from the government level. Consider that what you'd have to pay them, not right now, but later on,
Okay.
because, every time a road grader's sitting there, somebody's road's not getting done.
Yeah.
And
Could you hire a contract for hire on some kind of pay grade if we had to pay grade? I mean, where there was no benefits to just so much an hour?
It depends on whether or not they'd be considered an employee, and there's.
You could do some kind of deal where you had somebody who was committed to you for a certain number of part-time hours, but you need to keep them under 20 hours a week. Because that's what capers in, isn't it? You have to keep them under that. You can't really treat them as contractors because you provide the equipment, you tell them when to work and so forth. So they really wouldn't be contractors, but they can be contract employees, which is like, a different thing. So it is possible to have a contract with somebody that's going to give you so many hours worth of part-time work.
Not to exceed that many.
got anything else?
Did you guys approve that report?
Laying right there.
Oh, yeah. What's the motion need to be on it?
It's to submit authorize Jackie to submit that report.
And I think all you guys signed it too.
Yeah, there's a spot for all of us. I'll make a motion that we allow Jackie to
Submit the-
sign and submit this report for the noxious weed.
For last year, right?
Yearly report, 2020 report.
I'll second that. Been moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. What else you got?
I think he just walked away. I kind of wanted to have him in on this. I was going to talk about the bridges. You want to do that now or the bridge contract a little bit later, or
Yeah, let's do it in
wait for him to?
about a half hour.
Okay, that way he can. Yeah, because I want to pull some notes together.
I got a message from Doug just a few minutes ago, reporting on the number of calls. He wanted me to relay to you guys. For the fire department, they've had 72 calls this year. This past week, there were 11 calls. It was 3 structures, 4 grass and brush, 2 landing zones, 1 medical assist, and 1 motor vehicle accident.
Hey, Don George is here. I talked to him last week and he.
Don, did you want to talk to us?
No, I didn't want to, but.
Okay.
I did.
What's the date on here you guys put down there? That's just, you just signed it the same date he did.
I did. I'm going to put the dates on there. I think it's the first.
I'm gonna sign
Put the right date on there.
Also, I forget, can I get 5 minutes, Jack?
Yes, sir. As soon as Don's done, we'll go in there.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
I guess you're ready for me.
Well, I think. You taking your jacket off. It looks serious.
Well, it is. Well, it's all serious. Good morning, gentlemen. Last week, Danny came in, had an impromptu visit with me about any contractual agreement between Linn County Park, KCP&L at the time, or Wildlife and Parks. And I told him I thought at the time that I might have something. And I went back through all my files and actually found the original contract between Wildlife, Kansas Fish and Game, and KCP&L. And then even found amendments. There was a 30-year contract.
Right.
After 30 years, I think it was in 2008, we sat down with KCP&L and revisited with them about any amendments to that original agreement, and I actually have all of that. But no, this contractual agreement is between Wildlife and Parks and KCP&L.
So this deals with the lake. This
Yeah.
doesn't deal with-
Right.
It doesn't have, the Linn County Park's not in it. I was uncertain about that when we spoke, and I found the original contract, so I don't have anything to help you.
Okay.
That being concluded is, and I don't know where to go for it.
Did we ever find anything on that, Jackie? No.
They're looking.
Has anybody, tried to call up Bruce Holt, because he would have been the guy that was in on all that.
Right.
And couldn't find a home phone. I don't have a cell phone for him. I tried to call up some of his family and they weren't home. So, but that would be a good suggestion, is to call up Bruce and say, hey, what was the original agreement? Was there a contractual agreement?
I thought there was one.
There was,
I have the 2008, the one that ended in 2008. I do not have the one
That continues on, right?
that continues on up. The one that I have goes to 2018, I think, and then it's.
So it's
From there on, it's not.
so it's still KCP&L then, not Evergy.
Yeah.
Right.
You got it up to 2018? It ends in 2018? Okay.
That was at the end of the first 30-year agreement, when Bruce Holt and I and KCP&L sat down.
I think it was for 10 years. Extension went to the 18, so now we're looking for the one from 18 on.
I don't know that they actually did one.
I don't have a clue either. It wasn't in my venue, so.
Okay. That's okay, Don.
That's being said, I can't help you.
Can you kind of explain like what you got? I mean, what your duty is at the lake and what you do, and
What I do?
yeah.
I manage the fisheries at Lacing Lake. I set the regulations, I request stockings, usually a year in advance. I do the habitat improvements, and I monitor those populations. I also send out weekly, bi-weekly reports on that lake so that our customer base can review those internet reports, online reports, and come to the lake and go fishing. I got on quite a bit of the groups last week and said, hey, Lacine's the only lake open in the state of Kansas. And I think your parking lot and stuff was full Sunday. And I've seen a lot of people chatting, where could they go, where can they go? When I jumped on there, just as Don George and said, hey, Lacine's open.
Where do you put your report at? What's the website?
I send in a fishing report and stuff to the Wildlife and Parks webpage.
I wonder if we can get that link to our
Sure.
page somehow, or our county page, or
It may already be, John Connolly or Koppel may have done that years ago, but you probably need to check.
Yeah.
And I'd recommend to have a bunch of your park stuff on there too, if it's not. Because that's how people nowadays navigate. I know I'm old school, but I'm converting over. Because that's where our customers need, so we try to provide that. I also did a bunch of work, you were talking about docks and things, and I put together some of the stuff that I've already built here in the county, like the floating dock that's at Parker and at Mound City and at Chrysler. And I'm getting ready to do one over at Richmond, so I've got some pretty good data, and if some pictures and things you can go look at and kind of see what you want to do and figure out what you want to spend. Unfortunately, at this time, I can help you do everything but finance it. I don't have any money for.
And I know that we had a meeting last week and we're just looking at options to, I know the docks was something that was brought up that, could maybe improve it and, go
I
ahead.
worked with Don on putting one in for Friends of Fishery or something, and they didn't want to replace one, they would put one in new. They didn't score well, because they're talking about new. Never been one there, and not replacing the ones that are there. Our docks are more than sad. They're borderline dangerous.
Yeah.
And most grants are that way. Most grants don't want to do maintenance. They want to do new and improved. So, but
We are talking about pulling that one out and rebuilding it so they can see it. The water come up with the ramps on some bad.
it's,
And the spud hole on it and stuff.
and the company I've been using, they have a representative that can come up and look at the situation and really help design something. Because I think everything that's been built at Linn County Park was just built. It really wasn't designed for the conditions. So this guy's a professional and he's been, I use him at Gun Park in Fort Scott too, and he's been really good about coming out and showing us how they can build something for our needs. You can stop and pick up this stuff or whatever you want to do, or we can go look at them sometime and talk about how they were built and why they were built and how they were funded.
And we're, we were like last week, we were just throwing out ideas to help try to, maximize the use of that park. If you have any ideas, we don't talk about it now, but later, I know you and I have talked. If you have any good ideas, I'd love to hear them. So.
You got a lot of land there. And I look at it like this. You have the opportunity to make a product. You have a consumer base of 7 million people that's an hour away, and they're looking for something to do. Straight down 69 highway and you're there. You really need to understand your customer base and then build it and they will come. So, and you got the
Property though.
and you got the mine, you got the strip pit area.
Another 10 years so far,
Oh, out there by the.
we think.
I mean, I don't want to focus on one spot, but you got all your landfill area over there that ought to be good for something.
Sure.
Figure out a way to dissolve the liability and let them ride four-wheelers over there or something.
Yeah. And we did talk about that too. So hopefully we can pull off something like that.
I'm not an expert in anything, but if there's an opportunity that you need some help, I'll give you my 2 cents,
Appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
even if it doesn't sell a fishing license. I keep my ears open for an original contract for you guys, but I know that when we did that renegotiation, Bruce Holt was sitting there with us, so.
Yeah, it sounds like we're gonna have to get in contact with him. Thanks, Don. Thank you, sir.
Thanks for coming in.
Okay, let's get to, before we go into executive session, you had some names that you were gonna,
For my comp plan name.
for your comp plan names. Where's Andy at on it? Can you grab him real quick?
I wonder if he talked to them this last week.
I talked to him.
Now, I understand there's a preliminary report on that too, on the comprehensive plan. Can I get a copy from Andy or?
Yeah, I mean,
What it was? I'd just like to read it.
yeah, he should have it.
And who's the contact
Been
person?
18 months ago.
Who is the contact person there for the company? Do you know?
I got his name. He can tell you better when he gets in here. Give you the phone number and the email to him. Andy, he's going to do your names right now for the comp plan. What was can you get Jim a copy or the contact information to the people that's in charge of the comp plan? I forgot his name. Is it Harold or Doug?
And
There's
there's
a
a
Harold.
preliminary report too of what it was. I'd just like to read it if I could.
Yeah.
Do you know if are they gonna start doing the surveys and start figuring out how they're gonna get it out in the mail over social media? Is that their next step? Do you know?
All right. So what's your names?
Good. I make a motion that we accept Allison Hamilton, Brandon McGinnis, Teresa Miller, and Erica Gilbert. That's my motion.
Allison, Brandon,
Teresa and Erica.
Teresa, and Erica.
And I have everybody but Allie's.
Did you add anybody?
Yep, Hal Eggers from Blue Mountain.
Hal Eggers. Did you get that, Dave?
No. I got Al Hampton, Brandon McGinnis, Al Eggers,
Teresa Miller and Erica Gilbert.
Okay. So that's your motion. You just added it to yours, and you want to second it?
Yeah, second it.
It's been moved and seconded that we add 5 people to the comp plan, 4 from Danny and 1 from Jim Johnson. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can you let us know how your meeting goes and kind of what their next steps are? Yeah. All right. Thank you, Andy.
I got a little bio here he wrote down if you want me to read it, but I mean, it's for Hal.
Go ahead.
He just said, my name's Hal Eggers. I live north of Blue Mountain on 600 Road. My wife Tina and I have been lifelong residents of Linn County. I've worked in the construction field 41 years until I retired in 2018. My family have deep roots in the county as they homesteaded here in 1897. Our county is very important to Tina and I as her family has homesteaded here also. During my construction career, I was able to travel all over the U.S. I worked as a supervisor and coordinated with the customers of these projects to make sure the guidelines were followed and the projects completed to their specifications.
Sounds like a good
What was their last name?
individual.
Hal Eggers.
Acres?
Eggers.
Eggers. All right. We're going to go into executive session, but is there any public comment today?
Hey, I'd like 10 minutes legal too.
Okay, so we got 10 minutes legal. You needed legal? Personnel?
Did Jackie need anything?
Did you need any? Did you need any? So make a motion that we go into executive session, 10 minutes with the commissioners and the normal with Jim Johnson made that. And 5 minutes, is that what you said, or 10? 10 minutes for personnel. Total of 20 minutes. That's my motion.
I second it.
Moved in second, all in favor? Aye.
Right now, we'll take comments.
Nothing come out of it.
I can comment on it.
There's a bar back there, really. We just go back and drink a little, come back out. Wait for Danny.
Waiting on you, like waiting on Lane.
Did you have anything else?
Yeah.
Okay, come on. You gonna talk about the bridges or something?
Yes, bridges. A few weeks ago, about a month ago, we talked about, I brought the proposals for the bridges in. And I haven't had time to get back to that. And what I'd like to propose is, instead of me bidding out the Hell's Bend Bridge, turn it over to the on-call engineer to do the RFQ and to bid this out. That's more up their wheelhouse than mine. I'm a little bit,
That's really the way it ought to go.
Yeah, I mean, it's going over a railroad track too, right? That's the one over the railroad?
yeah, what will happen is, we'll say, Peppercorn, go ahead and take care of it. They'll put out the RFQ with all the, working with the state and say, you need to do this, this, and this. They'll fill the paperwork out. And then they have no desire to bid on this bridge. So they would be, and they'll set it out, and then all the bids and the design proposals go to them for them to evaluate as an engineering firm, as opposed to me trying to evaluate
Will
this
all
stuff.
that cost go be built into the cost of the bridge, or is it something?
Yeah, that's part of the grant.
The grant will be.
Yeah, we'll pay for that. So I would rather use them to do that one. And go ahead and give them the go-ahead today to start that, because I got a inquiry from the state this morning already, and said, where are you at on this process? Have you done anything? And I said, let you know later. But I'd rather have them, who are more of they do it all the time, as opposed, because if I miss something, we're back to 4 more weeks of bidding and everything else. So I'd like to just have the on-call engineer do that.
Not have a problem with it.
I don't have a problem.
All right.
And then the second one, the small bridge out there, same thing, except in the past, I know we had the one guy here that was kind of confusing the whole thing, but in the past, what we would do is turn to the on-call for the smaller bridges or box culverts and let the on-call do the design and everything again on it as well. So, and I looked at their bids. In fact, here are the 2 bids. They're basically identical. The other ones, the hourly rate was so much higher, and they did not break it down into per bridge. But here are the 2 proposals. They're virtually the same.
What bridge is this? What one is this?
31, Botkin and 31 Highway. And this is kind of what Peppercorn had proposed.
That's kind of what they did out there at the lake.
Yeah, it's a simple box bridge. And they have it broke down on.
Yeah, you can look at it.
Oh, there's another one. They have it broke down into what his estimated cost was. And always in the past, we had let the on-call do that portion. But it just so happened he bid virtually the same as what the other guy did. So I would almost, with one caveat, if we let Peppercorn design, bid out, do all the stuff, and qualify the bids, I mean, it's pretty much engineering stuff. I would not let his firm bid on the construction. I would say that would be a conflict of interest, clearly, because Peppercorn has a business that builds this stuff. But if he wants to do the engineering and design, and there's his breakdown of it, this other proposal, which was pretty close, construction and engineering, 20,000, construction Where the glasses, I can't see them. He came out to, yeah, I think his figures were even higher than what I thought, the final design. But his was 30. Here it is in the back. He was looking at preliminary engineering 33 and inflation 13. Peppercorn says 32. And he didn't put inflation on it.
Gary, in the past, did we let our on-call engineer bid out?
You would bid on the actual.
Yeah.
No, well, I think the only time that ever come up was once with Linn.
Yeah, we've done 4 since I've been here, and that's the way we handled it before. Peppercorn, bring up the design, and then we would approve them, and then they would do the bidding.
They
Part of,
they do the design, they go out for the bids on the construction project, but we don't want them to be.
Right.
So we tell them, we'll give you the bid to do the design on this box culvert on the condition that you commit to not bidding on it.
I think that's only fair, yeah.
yeah, and then what we do is, and I've always done, even way before me, is we go in, we demo the old one, we prepare the sites, and then we're bidding for a company to come in and do that. And local bidders, and they have more access to advertising than out to the contractors than I do.
Okay.
And they know them.
So Peppercorn can just not bid on the construction of the bridge if they design the bridge for us.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good practice. Otherwise, it starts to look like a kind of a cushy little deal.
Yeah. But if you look at the 2 bids, he was lower, and the other ones were higher, they went per hour. Their hour was $100 more an hour for each of their.
Okay.
So I'm comfortable with Peppercorn. And I know he's done the 4, the low water bridge on, between Bodkin and Cape. He did the one, on Nichols, and he did the one on 1525, and they were all, and one on Kite. They were all very good work.
So say what you want today.
I
What do
would
you
like, permission to allow the on-call engineer to do the RFQ for the Hells Bend Bridge, OS 5.
Make that one thing.
Okay.
Okay. So that's, I'll make that motion that we allow Peppercorn, the on-call engineer, to design the bridge, north of Lacine. We call it Hell's Bend, right?
Let me clarify. He will put out the bid for the engineers and then select the engineer who will
Right.
bring back. He won't do the design work.
Okay.
He'll put out the RFQ
Yeah.
on the design of the Hells Bend Bridge.
Yes.
That's my motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Second one.
And then the one on 31 in Bodkin, I'd like to accept his bid for the 30,000 to design. And he also will do the bidding out. It's the whole thing. He's doing it all. The other ones makes it confusing. The other one goes to the state.
Okay.
The state reviews the design and they.
So what do you want David to write in the motion?
So you're accepting Peppercorn's bid to design and bid out the box culvert project.
32,000.
You got that, David?
Say the price, 30.
For the 32,000,
680.
680.
Contingent on understanding that they will not bid on the construction.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's my motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Okay, I will work with them and say, to bring the, I'll have them bring the results of the RFQ, which engineering firms and what they considered and their recommendation and why. Then, like for Hell's spend, and that will go to the state. And once the state approves those plans, they do the construction, and they manage it from there. The smaller one, we do. So, okay, that's all I had.
When Al, is he due next week from the,
Yes. Yeah.
so
No.
another thing to bring in, ask him to bring in is his spreadsheet of, all the dump stuff that goes on down there. He's been weighing,
Yes.
and the money that goes through there.
Yes.
Those are interesting items.
Okay.
And
I might have to.
he's got a safe down there now and everything?
Yes, there is a safe now.
Okay.
Well, shouldn't be telling people.
Yeah, what's the combination?
Yeah.
Well, we know we weren't before.
But one thing about it is we have 7 surveillance cameras down there, so it's a little different than it used to be.
Yeah.
All the areas now have safes. We're also starting to add, I asked Chris to start adding some security cameras to the workshops, the barns, because we have had, at least that I know of, 2 vehicles messed with or stolen out of the parking lot down here. So we're going to put, not inside the shops, but we're going to put them on the outside to monitor who drives in and who drives out in case we have issues. Same with up there at Linn County, or the Lacine one, we're going to monitor that one long building.
I quit doing that.
Yeah.
Have you already, what's the status on those, the trucks, those work trucks?
Oh, I stopped by last week and asked him, and they're before the end of March. Harry passed 200,000 on his, and I said, well.
Yeah, you can't even hear them when you're trying to talk to them through the window. It's so loud.
So.
What about the deals on the graders? I haven't seen any out in my area. I just wondered, the fill.
Franklin's got one, and that would be over in Pleasanton.
Is there any way we can get it over in this district?
There is one over there.
Be it Centerville on the north.
Han's got one.
Yeah.
And we just purchased another one that these things they're not hurt. They come in used, and I can get them for $2,500. We'll drop them in there, and we picked another one up. I'm not quite sure which piece.
So we got 3 or 4 now.
4 now.
All right.
The guys love them. The ones that have them and the ones that don't have them are asking for them. But if I can get them a couple and Harry wants to build them. He said there's nothing hard on a rainy day to build one of these. He said they're simple. So I said, okay, if you can do it and a lot cheaper. But we've had so many projects. I mean, I don't know if I mentioned it. We're going to work on the health department. Some of the people are going to work on the health department this week to add parking because they're having a hard time with all the number of people running through there. So in front of that building, if it ever dries out enough, we're going to scoop out and haul some gravel over there so they have access to park in front of that building for when they have these vaccine clinics.
Okay.
So.
Is that it?
Yep.
You got anything? Danny?
You asked me about a fire board member.
I did.
2 or 3 weeks ago. I got a guy, Donnie Reiner, someone said he's a retired fireman.
Okay. So,
This is a non-fireman position from his district. So you need a motion to make that appointment to fire board.
Make a motion for Donnie Reiner for the fire board. He's a retired fireman.
I'll second that.
moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
That's been a spot that's been open for a long time, hasn't it?
A long time. Yeah. I think we got most of, if not all of them filled now. All right. David, you got anything else? Anybody else out there? Make a motion, we adjourn. Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
I don't know if it's number or not, but.
I'll give her a holler. I think I know what it's about. Buying a house or something. I can go and deal.
I told her. Grab both dogs.
All right.
necessarily get us.
Can you turn that off?
It's not. Should have.